everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to learn how to make these beautiful ruffle beach shorts, and this is an inspiration from Pinterest. It has been making rounds on Pinterest, and I promised myself that I will give it my own definition and make my own version of it. So for the yarn, I'm using 100% acrylic robin, and I am doubling my strand. But if you don't want to double your strand, consider using a DK weight yarn and a single strand. So for me, I used 6 balls of this, and this brought me to a total of approximately 1,800 yards. But if you're using a single strand, you will definitely need about 900 to 1,000 yards. And then I also used a 4mm crochet hook, a measuring tape, 2 stitch markers, a darning needle, a pair of scissors, and then for those lovely ruffles, I used this wire. I don't know what it's called, but if you can help us out in the comment section, we would really be grateful. I brought the whole chunk to just show you what I received when I ordered for it, and it didn't come in a packaging. I just saw something online and I ordered for it, and I happened to get exactly what I was looking for. So if anyone knows the name of this wire, please help us out. And then, yeah, you just need little, very little of this for each and every ruffle. But I had to buy enough to take me through the different projects. So let's get started. If you would like the written pattern, it's already available on all my online shops. And in this image, it's paired with the flower petal bikini top, which matches perfectly, especially in a contrasting color, but it can also be in the same exact color if you wish. That top already has a tutorial as well as a pattern, and let's jump right into the video. Alright guys, now you're going to get your 4mm crochet hook, and you're going to make a slip knot, and we're going to start off with a chain that can wrap around the widest part of our hips, your hip circumference, when stretched fully. So for me, I'm going to start off with a chain of 130 chains. So just make sure that you can get a chain that can fully stretch to your hip circumference, and that number should be an even number. So it should be perfectly divisible by 2. So I'm going to do my 130 chains, and I'll be back to show you what to do next. This is the foundation chain of our shorts, because at the end of the day, these shorts have to be able to go through your hips in order to be functional. Alright, so when you have your chain ready, you're going to make sure it can stretch to your hip circumference, or the widest point of your hips. So you're going to make sure that this chain is not twisted. Make sure the braid is always facing up. This is how to ensure that the chain is not twisted. Make sure your chain is not twisted, and you are going to make a slip stitch into the very first chain that you made to make a circular ring. So this is what we have. You'll create a circular ring. So we're going to do some calculations right now. Let me make use of this paper. So you're going to get the number of chains that you've done. For me, that is 130. And then let me zoom in a little bit. 130. You're going to subtract 2, and that will give me 128. So replace the numbers with your particular numbers that you have used for your design. So I have 128, and divide this number by 2. This will give me a total of 64. So let's say this is X. X is 130 chains, or whatever chains that you've made for your foundation chain, and it should be an even number. Then you're going to subtract 2, and that will give us y. Y is equal to 128 chains. And then you're going to divide y by 2, and that will give us z, which will be 64. So let's see how to apply these calculations to our actual piece. So we're going on to round 1. For round 1, you're going to make a chain of 3, which counts as our very first double crochet. And then you're going to go into the same exact chain with 1 double crochet. And then you're going to place 1 double crochet in each of the next Z stitches. So for me, that is 64. So I'm going to place 1 double crochet in each of the next 64 chains. That is 2, 3, 4. I'm going to continue counting until I have a total of 64 double crochets after the stitch which has 2 stitches in it, the very first stitch. So I want 64 stitches after that, or Z stitches. At this point, we're going to be at different levels because I don't know the starting chain that you considered for yourself. So make sure you apply your particulars within the video. Alright guys, now I have a total of Z stitches after the very first 2 stitches that are placed in the same stitch. So I have my 64 stitches. And now into the next stitch after the Z stitches, you're going to go in there with the next chain will get a total of 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So once you place your 3 double crochets, you're going to get your stitch marker, and you are going to mark the middle stitch of the 3 stitches that you just placed, and then continue to place 1 double crochet in each of the next stitches until the end of the round. And you should be left with Z stitches after this increase. After the 3 double crochets that are placed here, you should have Z chains left on your round. So continue to place 1 double crochet in each and every stitch, and I'll meet you back at the end of the round and let you know what to do. Alright guys, we've come to the end of round 1, and before we go any further to wind up, you're going to get a stitch marker and mark the second stitch, the one right after the chain 3 at the beginning of the round. You're going to mark the next stitch, the second stitch that we placed in the very first chain. You're going to mark it because it's going to be another increase point alongside this one that we placed at this point where we placed 3 double crochets. So to wind up round 1, you're just going to, after placing your last double crochet in the last chain, you're going to go on top of the chain 3 at the beginning of the round and place a slip stitch, and that marks the end of round 1. So round 1 should look like this. You have 2 increase points, one here and one here, and then the sides of the shorts. This is going to be the exact middle where we shall also create a chain to split the leg holes of the shorts, but we shall see that later on. So let's go on to round 2. For round 2, you're going to make a chain of 3 and turn your work so that you're working in the opposite direction of the previous round. So turn your work, and you're going to place 1 double crochet in each of the next stitches until you get to your next stitch marker. So 1 double crochet in each stitch until you get to the stitch marker. Just continue to place 1 double crochet until you get to this stitch marker at this point, and I'll show you what to do next. Alright, so we're approaching our first stitch marker of the round, and I'm placing a double crochet in the stitch right before the one with the stitch marker. Now you're going to remove your stitch marker at this point, and in that stitch that had the stitch marker, you're going to place a total of 3 double crochets, and then mark the middle double crochet of the 3 double crochets that you just placed. This will be the increase point of the next round. So you're going to continue to double crochet once in each and every stitch until you get to your second stitch marker towards the end of the round. So continue to place 1 double crochet in each and every stitch, and I'll meet you back towards the second stitch marker. So guys, I had to change a hook. It's still a 4mm crochet hook, but this one was making a squeaky sound because it's getting old. So I'll be using this one, but it's the same exact size. Alright, so we're getting closer to our second stitch marker, and I've just placed a stitch, 1 double crochet in the stitch before the stitch marker. You're going to remove the stitch marker and in that stitch that had the stitch marker, you're going to place a total of 3 double crochets. That's what we always do in the stitch with the stitch marker for this part of the shorts. So after your 3 double crochets, you're going to mark the middle stitch. And we've come to the end of the round, so we're going to just slip stitch on top of the chain 3 to wind up round 2. So for this part of the shorts, which is the upper part of the shorts, you're going to make sure that you're always working in the opposite direction of the previous round. And when you're not going to do that, I will be mentioning it. But for now, we're going to always make sure that we are working in the opposite direction of the previous round. Let's go on to round 3. Round 3 is basically going to be the same as round 2. So you're going to make a chain of 3 and turn your work. Make sure you're working in the opposite direction of the previous round. And then double crochet once in each and every stitch until you get to your stitch marker. This time round, the stitch marker is going to be very close, the very first stitch marker. You're going to remove it, and then in that stitch that had the stitch marker, you're going to go in there with 3 double crochets. And then replace your stitch marker in the middle double crochet of the 3 stitches that you just placed, and then continue to double crochet once in each and every stitch until you get to your second stitch marker of the round, and you'll be able to create another increase at that point. Replace the stitch marker into the middle stitch and then go all the way to the end of the round, placing 1 double crochet in each and every stitch, just like we did for round 2. So the only difference is when it comes to the stitch markers, make sure you create an increase by placing 3 double crochets in the stitches that are marked with the stitch marker. Everything else remains the same. You just continue to place 1 double crochet in each and every stitch until you make it to the end of the round. So I'm going to keep working round 2 because that's basically what we are repeating until I get enough coverage. I'll also be recommending a number of rounds to consider for the different sizes. And yeah, I'll see you when I have enough coverage for my shorts before we start the shorts shaping in the middle of the legs, and then also we shall go ahead and create the ruffles. This is what your shorts should look like at this point. So continue to repeat round 2 again and again, and I'll meet you back when I have enough coverage for my shorts. Alright guys, I ended up doing a total of 17 rounds, and if I'm to zoom out a little bit, this is what my work looks like. Looks exactly like this, and I continued to place my stitch markers in the middle section of the round on both ends in that middle stitch. So what we are going to do right now is to split the legs in order to create the leg holes. All right, so you're going to grab your yarn and you're going to attach it. All right guys, so you're going to attach your yarn in one of the spots where you have your stitch marker in that stitch, and you're going to split the leg holes. I'll be recommending a number of chains to make. So for me, I'm going to make a total of 10 chains because remember these shorts are already in the shape of narrowing down in the middle section. So just make sure your chain is not so long, and I'll be recommending a number of chains on the screen that you should consider making for the different sizes. So for me, I'm going to make a chain of 10. And after my chain of 10, I'm going to attach into the stitch that has the stitch marker on the opposite side with a slip stitch, just like that. And that way we have created 2 leg holes. You can see now it's making sense that it's a pair of shorts. Now we're going to work on one leg hole first before we go on to the next. So what we're going to do is make a chain of 3 and make sure you take the side whereby you're working in the opposite direction of the previous row or round. So I'm going to take this direction because the braid is facing the opposite direction of the new round. So after my chain of 3, I'm going to go ahead and make 1 double crochet in each and every stitch all the way around until I come back to the middle chain that I just created. So 1 double crochet in each and every stitch all the way around until I come back to this middle chain, and I'll show you what to do next. All right, now we are back to our chain that we created in the middle of the panel. You're going to go into each and every chain with 1 double crochet. Just make sure you don't skip any chain. Just go into each and every chain with 1 double crochet all the way across the middle until you get back to the beginning of the round that we are working on right now. Okay, so I'm placing my very last double crochet into the last chain, and then I'll make a slip stitch on top of the chain 3 at the beginning of the round. Just make a slip stitch there. You can see this side now has an extra round as compared to the side on the opposite side. I'm going to start the ruffles on this round. So after making a chain of 3, I'm going to make one more chain to make a total of 4 chains. And I'm going to go into each and every stitch with 1 double crochet, but making sure that I make a chain of 1 in between the double crochet stitches. And then another thing is, this is going to be my very first ruffle for the shirts. So you're going to make a chain of 4, which counts as a double crochet chain 1, and go into the next stitch with a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, and you're going to do that all the way around until the end of the round, and I'll meet you back when I'm through with this round. So this is the very first ruffle. I've already started working on the ruffles, and we're going to have a double layer of ruffles on these shorts just to make that ruffle pop as much as it can, as you'll see later on. So just keep doing chain 1, double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1. So this is going to overwhelm the stitches from the previous round, and it's going to start creating ruffles. Alright, so we've come to the end of our very first round of ruffles, and you can see what your work looks like. Don't try to straighten it out. It should be rugged at this point. As you can see here, it's not as neat as what we have on this side. So these are the ruffles starting to form, and they'll become more and more pronounced as we go ahead. So make a chain of 1 and double crochet into the very last stitch. And then you're going to make a chain of 1 and slip stitch into the 3rd chain of the first chain 4 of the round to end round 1. Now we are going on to round 2. From now on, we are not going to turn our work. We are going to continue to work on only the right side of our work. So you're going to make a chain of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the second round of ruffles. So make a chain of 4, and this time round, we're going to go into the chain 1 spaces as well as the stitches with 1 double crochet. So the chain of 4 counts as a double crochet chain 1. Into the space, you're going to place a double crochet chain 1. Into the stitch, you're going to place a double crochet and then make a chain of 1. 1 double crochet into the chain 1 space, chain 1, 1 double crochet into the next double crochet. So as I had mentioned, we are going into the chain 1 spaces as well as the double crochet stitches, but making sure that we always make a chain of 1 in between. So continue to do this all the way around. So the ruffle is going to become more and more pronounced after this round. Actually, this should be the defining moment for the ruffle, because it should be able to be seen clearly that we are actually creating a ruffle. It's not going to be as subtle as what we had after round 1. So let me go ahead a little bit. As you can see here, we are already creating curves for our ruffle. So let me just go ahead and keep doing this until the end of the round, and I'll show you what I'll be having at the end of the round. Don't forget, into each chain 1 space and into each double crochet stitch. That's the only way you're going to achieve this very evident ruffle. Alright guys, after going in a little bit on round 2 of the ruffles, I wanted to come and show you what it looks like even before we finish the round. We've just gone all the way from here up to here, and you can see how the curve is already defined. So continue to do this until the end of the round, and I'll meet you back to show you what to do next. Alright, we've come to the end of round 2 of ruffles, and I've made a chain of 1 going into the chain 1 space with a double crochet, chain 1, and going into the next double crochet with a double crochet, chain 1, go into the last chain 1 space with a double crochet. And just like that, you're going to make a chain of 1 and slip stitch into the third chain of the first chain 4 of the round. Just make a slip stitch there, and you can see how the ruffle has already formed. Now if you want to make this part longer, you're just going to make a plain round of one more round. You just make a chain of 4 and go into each and every double crochet from the previous round without any increases. You just make a chain of 4 and double crochet into the next each of the next double crochets, and making sure that you're always chaining 1 every after double crochet. That's if you want to make this part longer, but for me this is just enough because I don't want this to be so long. I want to keep them booty shorts. So now you're going to get your wire. For me, this is the one that I felt like was going to do the job. And after your last stitch here, the slip stitch, you're going to put it past the slip stitch. You can see where the wire ends. So you're just going to go into the loop of the last stitch, and we're going to start working around that wire for the very final row or round of the ruffle. So you're going to go into that space just like this. So in each chain 1 space, you're going to place 2 single crochets, but working around the wire. So you can see where the wire ends, and you're just going to go into each and every chain 1 space of the previous round with 2 double crochets. Sorry, 2 single crochets, sorry. 2 single crochets in each chain 1 space from the previous round while working around the wire. So you put it along the top of the previous round and work around it, placing 2 single crochets in each and every chain 1 space from the previous round. So I'm going to continue doing this for some time. You can see how stiff this is now turning out to be, as opposed to this wobbly effect that we had before. So continue to just place 2 single crochets in each chain 1 space. And the fact that it was already a ruffle that was going up and down, this wire is going to just emphasize that and also clean up that ruffle a little bit more. Not actually a little bit, much better than what it was before, as you'll see later on. So leave this tail behind because it will help out when it comes to the end of this round that we are making, the single crochet round or the final row, the single crochet row. It will help out a lot when it comes to winding up. So just leave it behind and continue. So let me just go in a little further, and then I'll come back on camera to show you how everything is turning out to be. Alright guys, after going in a little bit, I'm just on the side of the shorts and you can see what the ruffle looks like already. Looks very beautiful and pretty, and it is much more pronounced than what it was before. Or you can just see the difference between the lower layer that's not yet touched or worked on, and then the upper layer that's actually worked on. So I'm going to just go all the way around and I'll meet you back at the end of my round, which is at this point. Alright guys, we've come to the end of the round and you can see how the ruffles are behaving. Very unruly, right? They look so amazing. So we've come to the end of the round and I'm winding up. Just watch what I'm doing. I'm still going into the chain spaces with 2 single crochets. I'm going into the chain spaces with 2 single crochets, and this is the very last chain space. I'm going to go into it with 2 single crochets as well, 1 and 2, and then at this point I'm going to just cut at this this wire so that it overlaps on the opposite side. So we have 2 overlapping wires. All right, so you're going to make a slip stitch into the very first single crochet of the round. Just find where to place a slip stitch to end the round. Just like that, and then make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn. Pull through, and what we are going to do here, you can even decide to just weave in this wire on the opposite side so that it doesn't unravel. The fact that it's a bit pointed, I'm going to pretend it's like a darning needle and I'm going to pull it to the opposite side so that it goes a short distance in. I can be rest assured that it won't unravel, just like that. So just go into a few stitches on the opposite side and weave it in. So you can see that, and do the same for this wire that's facing the opposite direction. Make sure it's clean and pointed, and then you start weaving it into the opposite direction. This may take a while because you want to make sure that this wire doesn't come out to distort the shape of our ruffle. Actually, if you can get a darning needle and it helps you out, just get a darning needle, fold it over like this, and then pass it through a few stitches on the opposite side. So you can see that. I'm going to try to keep in this single crochet row. That's how we are going to get a very neat finish. So all right, so I've tried to overlap them. Once you're sure that these wires are not going to unravel, you can cut off the excess, and this is what we have. you're going to go ahead and just make a double knot, or just weave in the tail from the end of your previous round. And this is what we have, guys. Look at how beautiful this ruffle is. Now we're going to make a second layer of ruffles. We are not yet done, just hang in there. Just be patient a little bit because we want 2 layers of the ruffle for these shorts. So you're going to grab your yarn and then you're going to flip over your work. This is the right side, so just flip it over a little bit. And you can see you're going to count 2 rows below. So there's actually 3 rows. One of the rows is the single crochet rows. So the single crochet, then the double crochet, and the double crochet row. So we are counting 1, 2, 3, and into the space here, on top of the 4th row from the base of the piece, you're going to attach your yarn. We are now going to form the second ruffle. I don't know if this makes sense, but try to just follow the instructions. Count the single crochet, the double crochet, and the double crochet row, and then you attach your yarn on top of the next row. Now you're going to make a chain of 4, and we're going to go, you're going to just fold over your row like this. And you see those spaces? Those are the spaces we are going to go into. So chain 4, into the next space, you're going to place a double crochet. Chain 1, into the next space, double crochet. This is going to count as row 1 of the ruffles, just as we had for the previous round, for the previous ruffle. This is going to be almost the same exact look as row 1 of the ruffles. So chain 1, go into the next space with 1 double crochet. Chain 1, into the next space with 1 double crochet. So we're trying to form a foundation for our second ruffle. And this will make sense later on, not right now. So you can see that row is right below the ruffle that we just created. So go all the way around. Chain 1, go into the next space with a double crochet. Go all the way around, and I'll meet you back at the beginning of this round. Alright guys, we've come to the end of the round. It's a bit hectic to work because the ruffle keeps getting in the way, but this is what our round looks like, the very first round of the second ruffle. So I'm going to continue to finish up my round until the end, and then I will make a chain of 1 and slip stitch into the 3rd chain of the first chain of the round. And this is what our round looks like. You can see that it's the bulge on the inside of the ruffle that we just created. So you're going to rewind your video to round 2 of the ruffles and finish up this ruffle to this level. So remember, for round 2, you start off with a chain of 4, which counts as a double crochet, chain 1, and then into the chain space, you're going to place a double crochet, chain 1, into the double crochet, you place a double crochet. So chain 1 into the space, double crochet, chain 1 into the stitch, double crochet. So you're going to just keep doing this until the end of the round, and then it will be time for you to do the single crochet round with the wire inside. So this is going to take a very short time. After this round, do the final round of the ruffles so that you create a double layer of ruffles that's at this level, or that looks exactly like this. So let me just go ahead and finish up this round, and then I'll meet you guys back when this ruffle is also complete, so that we can see how the double layer looks like. So you can see this layer is right below this one that we are working on right now. Alright guys, I've made it all the way to the end of round 2 of the ruffles, and you can see how perfectly it sits underneath the finished ruffle. You can see that. So just imagine with the wire, it's just going to look amazing. So it has just run all the way beneath the finished ruffle, and now we've come to the end of this round, and I'm placing my last double crochet in the last chain space, and then I'm going to make a chain of 1 and slip stitch into the 3rd chain of the 1st chain 4 of the round. And now it's time for us to apply the wire. So I'm going to grab my wire, and I am going to repeat the same exact process that I did for my previous ruffle. Just leave an extra on this side, as you can see here, and then you're going to place 2 single crochets in each and every chain 1 space all the way around until you get to the end of the round. So 2 single crochets in each chain 1 space. So this is going to create 2 perfect ruffles at the base of our shorts, and both of them are going to be stiff because they will both be having the wires underneath the very last round. Look at that, guys. Let me go in a little bit further so that I can show you what both of them look like. Before, they look like this. This one is stiff and this one doesn't have a final round with the wire. But then now I've started applying the wire to the 2nd ruffle as well, and it's going to just look so good. I'm so excited for the final look because this is a design that I've been putting on hold for so long, but I knew eventually I was going to work on it. So let me just go all the way around, or just a distance in up to like this level, and we see what both ruffles behave like when they are beside each other. Alright guys, I've made it all the way around the 2nd ruffle, and this is what our ruffles look like. Very beautiful, by the way. It's something that I didn't expect, but it has surpassed my expectation. So once you're done with your 2nd ruffle, it's time for us to work on the opposite side of the leg hole. And many people usually ask, how do I reattach my yarn to work on the 2nd side? So I'm going to be demonstrating the very first round, and then I'll leave you guys to do exactly what you've done on this side. So you're going to grab your yarn and you're going to reattach it on the 2nd leg hole. So you're going to make sure you're working in the opposite direction of the previous round. So this round comes like this, so I'll reattach my yarn working in the opposite direction of the previous round. So that will be on the wrong side of my work. I'll reattach my yarn here. And you can see the braid of the previous round is moving towards this side, so I'll work in the opposite direction. So what I'm going to do is make a chain of 3, and work across the chain in the middle of the shirts. So you're going to go into each and every chain with 1 double crochet. If you can't go into the chains, you can consider going into the spaces between the stitches. Just make sure you don't miss any. This is an easy way out. If you can't go into the chains, if they are a bit tight, then you're going to just consider going into the spaces between the stitches. Instead of fidgeting with the chains, and sometimes you may even widen them, and the look may not be as satisfying as you may think. So instead of that, just go in between the spaces between the stitches. And you can see this is giving us a very neat look. All right, so we've made it all the way across the middle chain. This is the chain in between the legs. And now we're going to continue to work in each and every stitch of the leg hole. So 1 double crochet in each and every stitch all the way around. So I'm going to just go all the way around until I come back to the beginning of the round, and then I'll show you what to do next. Alright guys, I'm coming to the end of the round, and I'm placing 1 stitch, 1 double crochet in each and every stitch until the end of the round. Okay, so I've come to the end of the round, and I'm going to slip stitch on top of the first chain 3 of the round, and that will be round 1 of the second leg hole or the leg extension. Now we are going to go ahead and repeat the same exact instructions for the ruffles. I hope you still remember them. Just rewind the video, and then remember, for the first round you're going to make a chain of 4, which counts as a double crochet chain 1, and you're going to turn your work so that you're working on the right side of your work. And make sure from now on we continue working on the right side of the work. So chain 4 and double crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, double crochet in the next stitch. Just continue double crocheting in each and every stitch, but making sure that you make a chain of 1 in between the stitches. So just rewind the video and see exactly what you did on the first side of the leg extensions, and create your very first ruffle, and then go ahead and create your second ruffle just underneath the first ruffle, just as we did for the first leg extension. So this is what we have, and this is exactly what we did for the ruffle on this side. So I'm going to just rewind my video and follow the same exact instructions, and I'll be back when both ruffles are on these shirts. Once I'm back, you're going to see ruffles on both sides of the shirts, and then I'll show you how to do the waistband and also how to wind up our design. So just go ahead and create your second ruffle, and I'll meet you back when both ruffles are done. Alright guys, once you are done with both ruffles, this is what your shirts are going to look like. This is the midsection of the shirts where the legs split. You can see the leg holes, and this is the ruffle that you're going to have for your shirts. You can refer to this image on the screen. I'll be attaching it for you to show you the progress of what everything looks like. Now we're going to go onto the waistband in order to make it adjustable, because remember, we considered this chain when fully stretched in order to go through our hips to make these shirts wearable at the end of the day. So you're going to grab your yarn, and we're going to start creating the waistband of our shirts. All right, so you're going to attach your yarn in any space. Just find any space, and you're going to make a chain of 3 and front post double crochet in the next stitch, and then back post double crochet in the next stitch. That's all that you're going to do. Front post in the next and back post double crochet in the next. So for those people who don't know how to do a front post and a back post, for a front post you yarn over, insert your hook under the next stitch and push it to the front, and then double crochet as usual. And then for a back post you yarn over and go to the back of the stitch and push it to the back, and then pull up a loop and double crochet as usual. We're going to keep alternating between these 2 stitches. Our main aim is to create a ribbed effect for our shirts in order to create a waistband. All right, sometimes these designs of these hooks make it a little bit difficult for us to work with them, because tell me why this is always pinching into my project. This is a very good design, but it's sometimes inconveniencing, especially when the project has grown to a bigger size and I have to record it on my desk. But all in all, at least I love the hook. It doesn't create the squeaky sound, so I'm grateful for that. So I have to bear with the inconvenience at the back of the hook. All right, so as I had mentioned, the reason for doing this is to create a ribbed effect at the top of our shirts, and you can see that is starting to be created. So you're going to go all the way around until you come back to the beginning of the round. Alright guys, we're coming to the end of the round. I'm still placing a front post and a back post in the next stitch, and then a front post in the next and a back post in the next. Just make sure you do that in each and every stitch until the end of the round, and I've ended with a back post double crochet in the very final stitch. It doesn't matter what you end with, whether a front post or a back post, that will be fine. So you're going to slip stitch, you're going to skip over the chain 3 and slip stitch into the very first front post double crochet. And what you're going to do now is the very final round. So you're going to make a chain of 3 and front post in the very first front post double crochet of the previous round, and then a back post in the back post double crochet of the previous round. So what we are doing here is a front post in each front post and a back post in each back post double crochet all the way around, and this is going to emphasize the ribbed effect even more. So you can see the difference that we have here as opposed to what we have on this side. I'm going to continue working, alternating between the front and back post double crochet until I make it around, and I'll meet you back when I'm through with this round. This is the final round of the waistband. So you can see how the ribbed effect is very clear at this point. So go all the way around and I'll meet you back at the end of the round. Alright, so I've made it to the end of the last round, and I'm placing my very last back post double crochet of the round, and I will just make a slip stitch into the very first front post double crochet of the round. Just skip over the chain 3 and slip stitch in the first front post double crochet of the round, and then make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, pull through, and we shall weave this in later on. So this is what we have. I prefer to have the loose end at the back of my shirts. So this is the front side. So you're going to grab your yarn one more time, because now we are finalizing, and we're going to make a long chain of about 250 to 300 chains. And this is going to be the drawstring that's going to go into the waistband of our shirts. And the drawstring's purpose is to make the shirts adjustable in the waist, so that you can either have them tightly fitted or loosely fitted around your waist. So remember, when we were starting these shirts, we considered hip circumference. And as we wear our shirts, they're high-waisted, and our waist is usually smaller than the hip circumference. So we need something to gather this stretch in order to make it cinched in. So this is going to create a perfect fitting for our shirts. So make a very long chain, and I'll meet you back to show you how to weave it into the waistband of the shirts in order to get a perfect fitting. So once you're through with your long chain, you're going to get your darning needle, and you're going to thread the loose ends of the chain into the darning needle, just like this. And then you're going to locate the front side of your shirts. As you can see here, this is the front side of my shirts, and we're going to go into the second last round of the waistband, and we're going to go in and out. Start from the center of the shirts, and you're going to go in and out of every 2 stitches of the waistband all the way around. If you prefer your drawstring to be a bit up, then you're going to go into the very last round. And then another thing that I forgot to mention, if you wanted your waistband a little bit thicker, then you will just repeat round 2 of the waistband, the very last round of the waistband. You can repeat that until you get the thickness of the waistband that you desire for your shorts. But for me, I just did 2 rounds, and that was perfectly fine. So just go all the way around, in and out of every 2 stitches until you come back to the center front of your shirts. All right, so we're coming back to the center front of the shirts, and you're going to leave a few stitches in between, maybe 1 or 2 stitches in between the 2 strands that run down the center front of the shirts. And this is what they look like. This is going to help us adjust the waistband to either be this thin or even wider in order to pass through our hips. So that's the use of the drawstring. So once you're done with this, you're going to just make a knot. And it's also optional to have this string at the front. If you want it at the back, feel free to put it at the back of the shorts. And then you can get rid of the loose ends or the extra yarn at the end of the drawstring. You can also accessorize maybe with a tassel or a bead or a shell to give it some more definition or summer vibe. And that's basically it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this long tutorial. These are the final results that I got from my hard work. I hope you enjoyed each and everything about this tutorial. If you did, make sure I give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to check out the written pattern on all my online shops, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in my next one. Bye, guys.